Affordability. That's the conversation we're going to be having today. We're talking affordability when you go to the grocery store. We're talking affordability when you go for any service nowadays. And of course, the big topic is affordability in housing. And obviously with this channel, we talk a lot about real estate, how to invest, how to make money with real estate, but we also want to address the affordability issue. And today I'm going to be covering why I think that real estate is becoming more and more unaffordable and what we can do to potentially stop it. So in this video, we're going to be talking about what is causing real estate to become very unaffordable here in Canada, specifically in some of the major centers like Vancouver or Toronto, and what I think are some of the solutions to the affordability problem. Now, when it comes to affordability, we blame people like investors for being too greedy, looking to make so much more money over people. We talk about the developers, how much money they make when they build a property and sell them out. We talk about the greed of foreign buyers or foreign people investing in our property. Who's the real person to blame? And why does all the blame get shifted onto these third parties? First and foremost, what is appreciation and how is it impacted? The term appreciation is just a fancier word in real estate for inflation. As property values rise, so does grocery prices or other services. That is a form of inflation, and in real estate, we happen to call it appreciation. One of the reasons why people invest in real estate is to gain appreciation. It is one of the number one hedges against inflation. If you own real estate and we're in a hyper-inflated market, well, your value is going to go up, creating wealth for you. Now, what that does do as that appreciation goes out of control, it also creates the unaffordability factor that we see here in Canada for other people trying to get into the market. But what has caused this hyperinflation in real estate, or that extreme appreciation we have seen over the last several years, and why I think without the proper checks and balances, we could see a little bit of that come back in the future here? In my opinion, a big part of the blame comes down to the government. This is not meant to be a government conspiracy. I'm just going to relay some of the facts that we've seen and why I think it's not helping the affordability factor. First, we can't be talking about affordability unless we talk about monetary policy. Now, monetary policy, what I'm talking about is the fact that over the last several years, especially as we entered into COVID, the government started printing money. When you print money at an exorbitant rate where all of a sudden you are devaluing the actual dollar, well, that's what causes inflation. We saw over the last several years where the government was printing a ton of money. We saw this in many different forms over COVID, such as giving out CERBs or CEBA loans. We saw it in incentives where they give money back to tenants, whether it's $500. When you add all that up, that's a lot of money. So as the value of our dollar continued to decline, the price of goods and services, including real estate, continued to rise, and it rose at a much more rapid pace than we've ever seen it before here in this country. Even Tiff Macklin, director of the Bank of Canada, said that they're trying to combat the inflation through raising the interest rates, but it's being met with a lot of resistance as the government hasn't changed their monetary policy and they're continuing to print money. So as long as you believe that the government's going to continue to print money, we're going to continue to see rapid appreciation on property values, leading to more unaffordable housing. One of the number one things we need to do if we want to get more affordability back into this country is to have a monetary policy that is in check and is not printing money at an extreme rate. I understand that we do sometimes need to print money. It's part of what the government's tools are in order to combat stuff like recessions. However, if it's gone unchecked for too long, that's where we start to see a massive devaluing of the dollar. The next thing I want to talk about is their immigration policy. That is one big thing that's leading to a significant amount of demand coming into the country right now. And as I mentioned in a previous video, which you can check out, we just broke over 40 million Canadians. We've been bringing in so many more people. In fact, we brought in over 1 million Canadians last year alone. Now, this is both a good and potentially a harmful thing. We do need workers in a lot of different sources, and these immigrants do come in and they take jobs that are absolutely necessary that maybe other Canadians are not willing to do. At the same time, though, they need housing. And that puts a strain on an already strained housing market. So if we continue with the immigration policies as aggressive as they are, we're going to continue to see that the building is going to be far behind what the actual immigration is. In fact, CMHC has predicted that by 2030, we need 3.5 million new homes developed in order to match and keep up with the growth of our population. Now, as it sits right now, the developers are just not able to keep up with that. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. If we cannot build at the rate at which the population is going, it's going to continue to put a real strain on our existing housing, which obviously is going to force values up. Another one of the things that we have seen quite a bit over the last several years, especially as we got through the pandemic, but this was even happening prior. I mean, I've been in this industry for over 14 years now, and this is a consistent trend that the government does, where when we start to see a market take off, the one area they always go after is demand. Just in the last several years, some of the policies that we've seen include a foreign buyers ban. If you're watching this, they actually just recently announced, very quietly in fact, that they're extending this foreign buyer ban by another 2 years, meaning that a foreign buyer cannot buy a home in Canada for 4 years. Of course, there are exceptions to that rule, but it does put a strain if somebody's trying to come up here for work or anything like that. They're unable to purchase a home. Another one of the things that we see quite often is the government puts a big attack when they're trying to create affordability on the demand aspect. And a lot of the tools in which they use to attack demand are taxes. And in my opinion, I don't understand how taxes or increasing costs actually aid in affordability. Just my honest opinion. Some of the things that we've seen that the government has done, just to, as an example, to try to cut the demand, trying to target investors who are buying and selling homes at a rapid pace. You know, landlords are being attacked through different policies that protect tenants, which I understand protecting tenants. I'm all for it. But there has to be a happy balance, right? People who don't feel that their needs are protected as well as property owners are not necessarily going to want to go and buy more properties, increasing rental stock, which is a whole other conversation itself on affordability. The other thing is incentivizing developers. Instead of incentivizing, they create red tape or more taxes, different ways that they attack the actual people who create the supply to attack the affordability. So in my opinion, governments need to start looking at how they can maybe focus on incentivizing the supply side versus attacking the demand. And that kind of goes into what I think is some solutions that may or may not fall on deaf ears. I mean, if you're watching this, let me know if you agree with me down in the comments. If you've made it this far, do me a favor. I want to make more content, outlining these kind of situations that we have here in Canada, providing, in my opinion, the real facts. Drop a follow, make sure you subscribe to this channel, and of course, like this video. But here's a few simple things, and again, nothing's really that simple, that I think we can do to help the supply issue. When it comes to supply and demand, you have two choices. Try to drop the demand, which is what the government has been trying to do for a long time through so many different policies, and it clearly is not working when you factor in their monetary and their immigration policies. So if that's not working, we have to go after the supply side. And by doing that, we need to increase supply. So instead of penalizing investors or developers, we need to incentivize them. Give them tax breaks to build more. Give them incentives to buy more property, to have as rental properties. Give reasons for people to actually invest their personal hard-earned money back into the system to create more supply. The other thing here is cutting red tape. It takes sometimes years to get a development that's already in a neighborhood community plan approved to the point where they can start selling those units and getting them built. If we can cut the red tape and make it more accessible for developers to get in and start developing their projects, that bottom line was actually going to go up because their holding costs will go down, which will incentivize them to go and start doing more projects. The more projects they do, the more housing we create, the more we bring up the supply matching the demand. Again, CMHC has predicted, as I mentioned, that big gap in housing that we need. If we were just to start incentivizing builders, investors, developers to build more, I think we'll actually be able to bring that affordability, or at least bring that rise in value back to a more standardized or easy to maintain level, I should say. So that's my opinion on what is creating the unaffordability here in Canada. And in my opinion, it's an easy solution. However, it just doesn't seem when we talk about government and government policies that they like to follow the easy solution. In fact, in my opinion, they like to follow the popular vote and place a lot of the scapegoating. But I'm curious, what are your opinions on the housing affordability here in Canada? Drop it in the comments below. And of course, if you're not subscribed to this, it would really help me with this channel if you hit that subscribe button, like this video, and of course, share this with anyone that you feel needs to hear the truth.